I always wanted a riveted tank, preferably an air tank, something that's actually usable. They're just beautiful. I really not a big fan of the ones with the concave bottoms, which is all the smaller tanks so that they can get at both ends of the rivets, because you can't put a guy inside that tank. But they're hideous. And so, thinking about it, I know a lot of guys will cut open a riveted tank and put a good tank inside of that tank and weld it up, and that's how you get a riveted tank you can actually use that's safe. Especially the ones with the concave bottom, that ring around the bottom where it's sort of a divot all the way around. They get water in there and they rust out, and they're just not safe. It would have been a lot easier, I'll tell you, if I'd found one that was usable and in good condition. So I decided to build one. Got a 2-inch by 1/4-inch flat bar and drilled the holes. Sort of cut the rivets down so they're shorter. And after I drilled the holes, run it through the ring roller, which is a pipe rolling machine with flat dies put in it. And once you've got it so that it fits nice and snug around the can, then put the rivets in and back weld them or slug weld them from the back and grind them off and prime them and wrap them around after you put Sikaflex all around the inside, which is like an adhesive sealant, and pull them tight with the come along. There's just a little gap and you weld up that one gap, and that's how the bands are held on, so they're never coming off. The doublers there where the air ports are, they had to be sort of bent in a press and warped and twisted to sort of fit whatever contour they had to fit to. But it's kind of handy having a air tank you can run around the yard, especially with the power hammer, because it's just so hungry for air. The surface paint there, the paint the factory does is crap and it flakes off, so it was kind of a pain in the ass getting all that paint on there to stick nice. But it should be fine for the outdoors.
Dead man talking, no you haven't seen one yet. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking.
And the bottom I left kind of open so you could see it, and I ran a line to the bottom so I don't have to lean under it to purge it. It's a pretty tippy canoe going around the yard. So the rear wheels, the axles are longer than they need to be, and they're pinned, and that way you can get it through a doorway, or but if you got to pull it around with the quad, or you got to move it over some inclines and stuff, the pins pop out and you can just pull those axles farther out and repin it, and she's way more stable like that, way nicer for pulling around the yard. There's the bands after they've been rolled and the rivets all plug welded in. There's the pipe roller. You'll see the flat dies. And if you weld a socket to it, you can run it with an air ratchet, so it becomes a power roller. The rivets were pretty easy to find on the internet, and I had to cut them shorter to plug weld the backside. I think you can buy them by the 1,000. And there's the outfit you can buy them from. Lots of rivets they got there. You get some hand bucking tools, and you can run that in the power hammer, that bottom die if you want. So those are the rings all welded up and ready for primer, and just sort of fitted them. Make sure the contour is good, and the gap where you're going to make the weld up the wagon wheel is good. And then we're ready to be primed and wrapped around the air tank with a come along until the ends just almost touch, and weld that bead up, and that way there's no welds on the tank itself. And it was good. We put it in primer. It was almost sad in some ways. I think it looked better in primer than it did in paint, but this is the only way that I can think of that you're going to get an air tank that's safe, that you can actually use around your yard.